record this. The most common issue that I've helped a number of students so far today seems to do with issues with seeding data, right? Now, one of the key things here is it's a concept that was introduced last term, or last year, I should say, when you're working with database, just order of operations, you might say, that objects have to exist before related objects if they depend on them, right? Okay. So here we're adding customers. That looks perfectly good. I don't see any problem there. We're adding function types. We'll definitely need that before going on to functions. Okay. So we have our function type, we have our customer, but I see we're adding meal types. Now that was nullable, so we could have left that out. And truth is, in this case, it might have worked, but ideally we do want to be able to seed meal types. But right away I can see here this function, okay, going into the context meal types and trying to find one. Well, that won't work yet because we actually haven't seeded the meal types, right? So coming down, let's just see what happens next. I'm not going to make any changes yet. Then we get to function rooms. Same kind of a problem. We're trying to add a room ID here, but we actually haven't created the rooms yet, right? So it's just, it's easily done. I've done it myself many times. You just have to kind of take your time and think, okay, what is needed before? So meal types, we said that's needed before functions. So maybe I could even do that. Bit of a trick, these are nicely arranged inside these ifs to make sure that, we don't do this if there are any there. If I click the little minus sign over here at the left, see right beside the line number 176, that shrinks down that whole block of code. So I can cut it, come up, and make sure I do that before we do functions. Just be careful of the curly braces you put things inside of, right? We want it to be separate from this if was for this curly brace here was for this if, right? So this stands on its own. Then we'll add the meal types before going on into functions. So that should fix that first problem we saw. Okay. And no, the order doesn't matter, just exactly the same as when you were creating the tables themselves back in SQL. The order that you created the tables was important. Okay, so function rooms, that depends on rooms. So the rooms would have to come first before we can do that. Yeah, so I'll do the same thing. I'll grab the code here for rooms. Sorry, I missed that comment there for the meal types. I'll have to fix that. Okay, so that can just go right here, right? So that way we're making the rooms first before we do the function room. So when I come here to function rooms, I have everything. We've already created the functions that happened earlier on. We've already created the rooms. So this should work okay, right? Yeah, so the only thing, I forgot to take this little comment along with the seeding of meal types. So yeah, to be thorough and proper, right? I'll just come back up here to where we add the meal types, which will be before functions, of course. I mean, the student did all that hard work making this nice comment, so I should include it, right? So that should make a difference. I should have everything in the right order now. Okay, now I probably should have started this demo showing one of my favorite tricks to do with seeding data is always come down here, set a breakpoint, so it'll stop if we have any exceptions, and we can look at the exception object, the EX object, and usually in the inner exception, it'll give us a good hint as to what's going wrong. So I kind of fixed everything, so I'm hoping it'll actually work. But maybe what I'll do is for now, I'm going to comment out this block of code, right? Just so we can get that error. See, and I've done that whole thing with one just by using those little plus and minuses there. All right, let's give it a try. I'm going to run it. And now I didn't take time. I should have checked if the migrations were set up and everything. The student said that it wasn't crashing, but they just weren't getting data. So I'm thinking this might take care. Okay, good. So we hit our breakpoint, which I expected because I deliberately made that error. So if I examine the EX object here, okay, my message, year, month, day parameters describe an unrepresentable date time. Ooh, that's not one I was expecting. There you go. All right, isn't that interesting? Okay, that's right in the message. So the year, month, and date parameters, An unrepresentable datetime. Well, okay. All righty. Well, first of all, let me come back up to this. Okay. I'll stop running. I want to put that code back in place. I'll remove the comments here. Okay. Oh, I removed too much. Oh, I want to leave it there. Okay, so let me just do this. I have to hold shift down, don't I? I had the wrong key on the keyboard. Okay, so all this, I'll remove the comments. So, all right. Now, just to prove that this is an unrelated error, I'm going to try running again, and I should hit my breakpoint for this business about the dates. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I did. And yeah, it's the same message. Good. Okay. So I was trying to cause the error for a different reason. All right. So probably what's happening here. Okay. Date time. Month and day 11 11 11 31. Is there not a 31 in November? I'd have to double check my calendar. That's one reason why I'll often do things like this, because I know that there's a first of the month, right? So that might have been it. That's the only time we're setting a date-time value. Okay, so let's see if that fixed the issue. Okay, all right, now I have a different one. Object reference not set to instead of an object, return null. Okay, so we're going to get our function, but we have a null value. All right, so one of these functions doesn't exist, or the function type. Okay, I think I see the problem. All right, so the function ID, we're going to function types, but here we're going to function types as well, right? This is supposed to be a query for a room, okay? Not a function type. So probably this is just supposed to be rooms. Sorry about my caps lock. And of course, room doesn't have a name, right? Room name. Now I'm thinking these room names are correct. Okay, all right. So let me just be brave and try it again. That's the great thing about that breakpoint. It'll just stop for any errors with seeding data. Okay, object reference not set to. So we're still having our first or default. So, I probably have to just double check and make sure these are actually returning values. This is, I have to confess, one of the disadvantages of add range, right? Is if any one of these fails, the whole thing's fail. And it means you got to examine each one and see which is the one that's actually causing the problem, right? So let me just actually play around with that a little bit. Okay, and this, another one here. These are supposed to just be functions. First or default, okay? And that, no problem. When one error is kind of hidden by another, right? Sometimes you got to solve the first error and then you go, oh gosh, silly me. I should have thought of fixing this up, but it didn't come up yet because there were other errors that happened first, right? So it's a natural thing for that to happen. I'd like to say that I'm so good that I catch everything the first time, but that is not reality. Look at that. Data everywhere now. All right. So, yeah, that's a good example of, just working through the issues, finding them one at a time and dealing with them as they come up because we don't always get told about everything that goes wrong in the very first chance, right? Okay, well, thank you to the student for letting us, go through this. So, a lot of other students, we walk through the same kind of thing. The order does matter, right? Because the order in which you create the data in the actual tables, if a subsequent uh, assignment of properties depends, usually from a link query, something like these, right, on finding data in the table to get a real proper value for these foreign keys, well, then that data has to be there first. So just be careful of the order. And then after that, just find your errors one at a time, and away you go.